Welcome to this week's Astro Edge Update. Each week we explore my research on astrological events, pattern recognition, and technical analysis on stock and crypto charts. My intention is to share the edge that I'm cultivating through the study of time and price. Let's look at some charts. Let's begin by taking a look at the dollar this week. The dollar has a big impact on the precious metals, on equity markets, and crypto markets. So the dollar has been on a tear for the past 7 weeks. We've had 7 green weeks in a row. As you can see, we are approaching the previous monthly lower high at 104.69. The pattern I identified is a cycle of Mercury's distance at a maximum and a minimum. And when you apply that to the weekly dollar chart, you can see that we have a really strong correlation with pivots. Given the correlation between the Mercury Delta pivot probability and price action with the 7 green weeks in a row and price really needing to consolidate here on the dollar chart, I think that there is a high probability of a dollar pullback coming in the next 5 to 7 trading days. With that said, I will be watching on the daily chart for confirmation of a trend change. So in order to see a daily trend change, we would need to confirm a daily lower high and lower low. And right now on the daily chart on the dollar, what we have is a pullback to the 20 EMA and a bounce straight back up here to testing the highs. So we will be watching to see if the dollar is able to break through that high and make new highs, or if we're going to pull back and tighten into a range for this week. And the dollar action is going to have a big impact on gold. In the Astro Edge Report 3 weeks ago, I identified a pattern in gold related to Venus cycles. And Venus cycles are broken into 6 intervals. And there has been a 100% accuracy since 2015 of Venus interval 1 providing a strong bullish move. Now, we did see on the daily chart that when we entered Venus cycle 1 that we did form a bottom and we had a strong move up on the daily chart. Now that we have had this strong move up on the daily chart, price is testing an important weekly trend line. On the weekly chart, we do have all of our EMAs curling up. And on the monthly chart, if you come over here and take a look, we have held the 12 EMA and we do have a bullish reversal candlestick here that formed in August. And currently our September bar is a monthly inside bar that is forming. Last for gold, we'll take a look at the hourly chart, which is forming a broadening formation like many other things in the stock market. Also, QQQ and SPY also have been forming lots of these broadening formations as we near pivotal moments in price action. So I'll be keeping an eye on which direction this broadening formation breaks and the reaction of gold to the weekly downtrending line in addition to the dollar price action as well. Next, let's take a look at the S&P 500 on the weekly. Our weekly pullback found support at the 20 EMA, so we did return to the mean, and we've had a strong bounce since then, which has opened up the door to either a weekly higher low and higher high or a weekly tightening range. So this week, price action will determine which is the most likely scenario. What I'm watching specifically on SPY is this same broadening formation that formed on gold, and we'll also see the exact same formation on the NASDAQ as well. So these broadening formations are reliable trades until they break. So that last week, I was trading the top and the bottom of this range. So we'll see if the S&Ps hold this range for a few more days or if we break one direction or the other. Now let's take a look at the NASDAQ. The NASDAQ has a very similar story to the S&P 500. We took our weekly pullback, found support at the 20 EMA, and we have had a strong bounce up, creating this weekly trading zone between the low at 354.71 and the weekly high actually at 387.98. So we'll be watching to see if price is going to consolidate into a tight range or if we're going to attempt to make a weekly higher low and a higher high. Again, the same broadening formation that we saw in gold and the S&P 500 is also on watch for QQQ. Next, let's take a look at Bitcoin. Last week, Bitcoin saw a pump and dump, and the narrative related to that was the ETF news. But ultimately, we just found ourselves trading in this exact same range that we've been trading in since August 17th. after the big move down, price has just been trying to figure out which direction it wants to move. I think it's important to take a look at the weekly chart and notice that we are inside of a larger weekly broadening formation, and that we have found support here in the same place that we found support back in June. I don't particularly really like trading longer term swing trades in the middle of broadening formations. I find that the directional moves are not as reliable as if we trade off the top or the bottom of the broadening formation. So that's ideally a long-term swing entry, depending on price action when we get there, of course, would be at the lower end of this weekly broadening formation. If we are able to hold this zone here, this 24,300 to 25,000 range, then we could see some continuation back up to the top of the wedge. And I would also say that I think this largely depends on what's going to happen with the dollar. So for me this week, the biggest factor that I'm keeping my eyes on is that dollar chart, and specifically to see if we see a pivot that has correlated so many times in the last several years with the Mercury distance pattern that I observed. Okay, next we're going to take a look at the Nifty. And first I want to look at Nifty in the time trades software. The ticker for Nifty in time trades is NSEI. And time trades has this really awesome function called influencers, where we can sort by the most influential events for pivot and move. And this includes multiple different planetary bodies and their movements. And so when we sort by pivot and move, we see that Jupiter's speed has the highest probability of a pivot. So after I discovered that, then I took that information and I came over to the Nifty chart on the weekly. And I applied Jupiter's speed. Minimum is red, 0 point is beige, and maximum is green. And so each of these lines tells us when Jupiter's speed reached the maximum, minimum, and 0 point. And what you'll notice is that these have very strong correlations with pivots. When you combine the capacity to identify pivots from a timing perspective with the ability to read price action and probabilities, then it increases your edge in taking a position. So I just wanted to point out that we did see the Jupiter speed minimum on August 7th. So now that we know that there's a high probability of a significant pivot in the market here, let's take a look at Nifty on the daily. And I want to come on back over here, and we're just going to put all these things that I've been talking about for the last couple of weeks on the chart. So we still have this daily head and shoulders that is on watch. We also have this broadening formation on the daily. And then we have these price supports down here and price resistance up here at 19,584.45 on the daily. And then if we were to break 19,257.90, then the next major daily support level below that is 18,873. This channel has been on watch since last week as it's been forming, and plays off the top and the bottom of the channel have been very reliable. So again, today price opened and tested the top of that channel, closed just below it. So tomorrow we will be watching on the Nifty to see if price opens above that channel and the channel is invalidated, or if we indeed continue to tighten inside this channel. Further, knowing that we have the Jupiter speed minimum on August 7th, I'm also keeping my eyes out for the probability of a stronger pivot move here over the next week or two. That's a wrap for this week's Astro Edge video update. Make sure to check out the full Astro Edge report. I'll leave a link in the comments below. Wishing you a profitable trading week. And remember, always know your moment in time.